What was the most pathetic attention-seeking behavior you've ever witnessed? My best friend was in a train wreck of a relationship with a woman who had some serious issues due to a former partner's infidelity. When he finally broke up with her, she would text him endlessly about how she was going to kill herself. I wouldn't normally recommend this tactic, but he just ignored her, and eventually the texts stopped. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after she seemed to have accepted that it was really over, a mysterious fire started in her condo, leaving her without a place to live. And despite being insanely wealthy, she really felt like the best place for her and her dog would be my friend's tiny apartment. They just needed something familiar after the trauma. He wisely refused. You will never, ever convince me she didn't start that fire herself. My mom has custody of my sister's daughters because my sister abandoned them. My sister doesn't ask about them, doesn't try to visit them, doesn't call them. Surprisingly, my mom got a call from my sister on the oldest daughter's 5th birthday. Unfortunately, it wasn't to wish happy birthday. It was to announce she had stage 4 duodenum cancer, which was upsetting. Obviously, only my sister didn't act sick. She acted excited about all the concern. She never went to the doctors, and people started to catch on. About a year later, after people started calling her out on her inconsistencies, she put on her Facebook that she had been feeling sick a week. She puked twice that morning and went to the hospital, and the doctor declared her cancer to be gone. She puked up her cancer. Of course, some dumbasses commented on her status congratulating her for being cancer free. My comment was deleted though. Something to the effect of, really? You have puked up cancer? Why the hell would you take attention away from your daughter's day with this shit? These 2 girls were friends. One was sweet. The other was attention seeking to the maximum. One friend was sexually assaulted. The other, jealous of the attention, made a lie that she had brain cancer. I knew a girl in high school who pretended to have brain cancer. She had these terrible theatrics where she would keel over in pain, and other days she would forget to keep up the act and be perfectly fine. About a month later, there was never any mention of it again. A guy I used to play cards with had a girlfriend who self-harmed, and when she stopped self-harming and started making something of herself, he started self-harming to get her to start self-harming again. And he openly stated this to us while we were playing cards. I no longer play cards with this guy. Classmate, my Nigerian boyfriend committed suicide after his parents rejected me for being white. My life is the worst. Everyone eats that S up and starts gathering around her like a flock of hens at feeding time. Find out not long ago the Nigerian fella is very much alive. Was only ever an acquaintance, and they went out for a drink once and only once. He's in a different program at our university, but avoids her like the plague now. People who check themselves into hospital on Facebook without an explanation of why they're there. Mom, I'm okay. Don't freak out. I'm at the hospital, honey. You've been a doctor for 3 years now. You don't have to start every conversation like that. I was having my second child, Maddie, when my mother decided to pull one of her glorious "no one deserves more attention than me" acts. Tyler, fiance, and I were in our hospital room, spending time with our daughter. We were about to get some shut-eye when a nurse came to the door to let Tyler know that he had a call waiting at the front desk. Our first impressions were kind of shocked because we had cell phones and thought everyone knew to call us personally if they wanted to come visit. Oh, and it was also like really late. It was my mother, of course. Her husband had allegedly beat her, and her dogs had attacked him. Her phone was busted up, so she ran to the neighbors to use their phone, and didn't know what our cell numbers were, so she had googled the hospital number. She needed Tyler to come immediately and get her. I laughed. I seriously laughed my ear off. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, why didn't she call the cops? We are nearly 3 counties over. Just had a baby the day before. And what the heck were we going to even do about it? Tyler had told her no, and we didn't hear from her anymore. My sister told me the following day that she was fine and never said a word to her about anything like that happening. Maddie is now 2 years old and has never met my mom. I was fed completely up after that embarrassment. It was not the first and I knew it would not have been the last either. One of my friends used to take selfies while crying in public and post them on FB, talking about how lonely she was. Oh god, I can feel that cringe. My ex was a hypochondriac and addicted to going to the hospital. She would pick symptoms of conditions that my close family members were affected by to try and make me feel that much more sorry for her. One time she called me crying saying the doctor said she was pre-diabetic because my father was diabetic. So I rushed to see her and she's acting like nothing happened. Then I bring it up a few days later and she said, oh haha, I just drank a Coke before having my blood drawn. It must have messed up the test. Ex-friend of mine used to threaten suicide. I'd lost track of him after high school. Then we reconnected. We are both musicians, so we'd play out together at pubs. It was fun until I discovered that he had multiple restraining orders and a history of beating women. I immediately ended the friendship and he became very psycho. He would call and text me all hours of the day and night threatening suicide. I tried to help him at first, but I discovered that it was a 100% ploy. I have an older brother who committed suicide, so this hit me hard. People like that suck. I'm so sorry. As someone who struggles with serious depression and suicidal thoughts, this pisses me off. When I'm feeling that close to actually acting on it, I reach out to a couple friends and let them know. But I don't ever threaten it. It's a I need help. I can't stop the thoughts right now. People that use it to get attention just royally pee me off, because it makes it that much harder for those of us that really need the help to ask for it. I know a woman in her late 30s who vagabooks like a middle school student all the time. Posts like this day has been the worst. Remind me never to trust you again. Who the F is that about? And who the F cares? Sounds like you should unknow her. I have some Facebook friends like this, and honestly I keep them, because sometimes I just like seeing how annoying they are. Not sure if it makes me feel better about myself, or if it's like a car crash that you can't look away from. But it's kind of interesting to see what tools some people can be. An acquaintance from high school who is constantly torn between Facebook being too mainstream and not having an audience to show off how independent she is. I think she's reactivated her account 4 times now, never lasting more than a month. Each time it's amazed people can't use this platform for anything more than pictures of food and vacations. Done with all of it. Followed by I know I said I would never use Facebook again, but I have to highlight my flash mob underwear roller derby squad and the sense of community they bring in a city kids. She can't quit and it's fun to watch. My dog barking and dragging his anus across the floor in a family meeting. Does he look like this? And, edit, thanks for the gold anonymous benefactor. In high school, a group of us were at Walmart. A friend got down on all fours and was crawling around and meowing at strangers. She even rubbed up on a dude. Teenage years are the worst. My sister is mentally disabled. At the age of 22, she has the cognitive function of her 11 or 12-year-old. She has severe fear of missing out. I don't know where it comes from, but she gets serious anxiety about being left out of various events, even though we make a special effort to include her in most things. She goes to a school aimed to teach adults with special needs different life skills. If she knows I'm coming into town to visit my parents, or I have something planned with them, she'll fake illnesses at school, so my parents have to come pick her up. It's super annoying, because it means that we all have to cancel our plans, and she's always faking it. As soon as she comes back home, she's perfectly fine. But my parents and my sister's teachers caught onto her BS. After several incidences of faking sick, they stopped indulging her and stopped calling my parents. My sister realized she needed to up her game. After watching 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, my sister found out that claiming to be suicidal was a foolproof way to get the attention back on her. One day at school, she tried to fake sick again. Her teachers weren't falling for it, so she got her hands on a phone in the school's office and dialed 911, threatening to hurt herself. An ambulance came and took my sister to the hospital. She ended up getting herself stuck in a psych ward for over a few weeks. She learned her lesson and never played that game again. One of my coworkers just faked a pregnancy. shopped an ultrasound and everything. Then she told me it wasn't true. She thinks she's okay and doesn't need counseling. After I told her she should probably go talk to a professional, I started distancing myself from that point on. The Prime Minister of my country died. A celeb posted a video of her driving to work, crying, with the voiceover of one of his speeches. 3 people I went to school with, all separately. One was a girl who, quite sadly, told other girls in our year that her auntie was Rose from the Titanic, and she was building a new Titanic to find Jack. We were in high school, so about 14 here. Sat, really? She was on J. Raimi Kyle when she grew up. The second was a lad who was a bit older, about 21 at the time, who would put things like, might get married this year on his Facebook just to make the, say, 16-year-old girl he was chatting to jealous though they had never met. This happened a lot. He was really odd. Like the time I was near him in a library and he, recognizing me, pretended he was on the phone talking to a girl. It didn't ring in the hilarious way it sometimes does in movies when someone pretends to be on it. But the librarian told him to keep the noise down, and he apologized and forgot he was on the phone. He never carried on the conversation. Just stood there with the silent phone in his hand looking at books. The third was a lad who put a video of himself singing Wherever You Will Go by The Calling on his Facebook. Only it wasn't him. It was the actual song. Well, an acoustic version, but the proper band singing and playing it. I had the same song, so, at first, told him he'd put the wrong audio on it, or you could hear the song he was singing along to over him. To which he said he hadn't, and it was him. I tried to tell him it wasn't, and he was adamant. Others did and he was adamant it was him. An account he had just became friends with. This was when Facebook would say onto a wall, when you became friends with someone, with no profile picture or any information, wrote on the status that she was his girlfriend, and this was definitely him. It was obviously an account he had created himself. The next day he told his Facebook friends that he was going to audition for X Factor that afternoon. That evening, he updated his status of how he didn't get through, but Simon Cowell had specifically came backstage for talk to him and tell him to personally stay in touch for the future. This person was also a bit peculiar, having been suspended from primary school for looking through the keyhole whilst the girls were getting changed for PE in a separate classroom, and when he was 16 rode his dead grandmother's shop mobility scooter around town. There was also a friend who told my girlfriend's friend that I was cheating on her with my girlfriend. At my cousin's fiancé's bridal shower, my aunt, the fiancé's future mother-in-law, would not stop talking about how my 90-year-old grandfather had condoms in his bedside table when she was in high school. That's how she handled not being the center of attention. He probably didn't want to end up with another one like her. The most hated GF out of my group of friends was upset that no one noticed her new haircut at my friend's going away to the military party. So what did she do? She got a hold of the pizza we had ordered. We were all outside and threw it in the pool, then went home. We were broke recent high school graduates who poured all of the money we had into that pizza just to watch it fall apart in a pool.